everyone. Hope you're doing well. This week's Parsha is Beshalach, and we are reaching sort of the end of a bit of story in the book of Shemot, in the book of Exodus. So the Jewish people have been in Egypt for 210 years doing backbreaking labor. There's this savior, Moshe, comes out of nowhere, kind of, after living in the desert of Midian for decades, comes out, says, Pharaoh, let my people go. The 10 plagues happened. That was last week's Parsha and the Parsha the week before. And now it's time to actually leave, actually Yetziat Mitzrayim, to actually exit Egypt. So the Jewish people leave, and they're walking, and they get to they end up sort of landlocked, or not landlocked, locked between the Yam Suf, the Sea of Reeds, and the Egyptian army. So the Jewish people are standing there. Moshe is like looking at the Jewish people. He's looking at the water. He's looking back at Pharaoh. And the Jewish people are like, were there not enough graves in Egypt that you took us out here to die? What the heck is happening? God says, be quiet. God is going to save you. And Moshe says, God is going to save you. And God is literally like, why are you asking me about this? You should stretch your arm out and demand that the sea should split, that we can get past this. So it literally says this: Moses raised his arm over the sea. God drove back the sea throughout the night with a powerful east wind and turned the sea into dry land, and the water split. Okay, so when we picture this, the sea splitting, this is magical, this Kriyat Yam Suf, the splitting of the sea, it's not that interesting if it's just the wind, because wind is a totally normal weather phenomenon. Big wind happens. There's records of Napoleon almost dying from a huge gust of wind because he gusted wind and the wind, the water almost took him over. He was a small guy, apparently. It's not that interesting because it's possible. And Rabbi Jonathan Sacks of blessed memory has spoken about this, that there have been scientific discoveries, weather people have worked on this. It's totally possible for a very, very strong gust of wind to hold up a wall of water. So it doesn't become interesting anymore. It's not God just saying snap and doing it. It's God using God using something that's totally natural and normal to make something very unnatural happen. So the splitting of the sea isn't interesting. It's when the sea split that's the true miracle. And I've spoken about this if it starts to sound familiar. The event of the splitting of the sea itself, of course, is a dramatic, beautiful, amazing event, but the timing is what is so magical. And that's what we have to recognize is the magic here. And it says in the Gemara and the Talmud that it was planned, programmed that the sea should split at this exact moment in history. And what does it mean if you're sort of planning for something way, 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 way in advance? A lot of things have to line up in order for that final moment of programming to work, right? And what does this have to do with it? Okay, so the Torah definition of a song, we have Shirat Hayam, the song at the sea that the Jewish people sing when they've successfully crossed over. We're told that Miriam brought her tambourine to the splitting of the sea because she knew something miraculous was going to happen, or to the Exodus from Egypt. She didn't know what was going to happen, but she brought this tambourine because she knew it was going to be it was going to be something beautiful and wonderful, that she was going to have some reason to jingle the tambourine and sing. I love that as a symbol of emunah, of faith. It's just such a beautiful thing to me. So Miriam brings her timbrel, her tambourine, and the Jewish people sing Shirat Hayam. And in the commentary of the Torah, again, you've heard this before, but I'm going to say it again. The definition the Torah definition of a song is when all unrelated moments, events come together and form a coherent whole. All these pieces and parts that didn't make sense before suddenly come together and make sense. And all the bits and pieces of God's symphony of creation, come together to meld one beautiful piece of music. Each note, each instrumentation note, each tempo mark, all these things come together. It's the same thing with a regular symphony. You have the winds, the strings, the vocalists, you have the conductor, all these pieces and parts, and together it makes a symphony. But there are so many tiny, tiny, tiny little things that have to line up in order to make the symphony. And that exactly what Kriyat Yam Suf is, the splitting of the sea is, that it was ordained thousands of years earlier, who knows, maybe millions of years earlier, that the sea would split at this exact moment. And all of the tiny little things that had to line up in order for this to happen at the exact moment, that is what the song is. All the bits and pieces that come together to this beautiful moment. We can think about Joseph being sold into slavery by his brothers, that was a part of the song, that all these things that seem negative, Joseph being sent to jail by Potiphar, Joseph being accused of doing something he didn't do, Joseph rotting in prison for 12 years. These are very seemingly negative things. There being a famine in the land of Canaan, that Joseph's brothers had to come into Egypt, and that's just the Joseph part of the story. There are so many beautiful, wonderful bits and pieces and parts in this story of the Torah that we can see lining up to lead us to this moment of Kriyat Yamsuf, of the Exodus from Egypt, and what a huge symbol this is in Judaism. So I encourage you, think about what the other bits and pieces and things that have lined up in your own life to form your own life of your own songs in your life. It's really a beautiful thought, and I love this parsha. I love this week. God willing, you'll all have a restful Shabbat, a Shabbat of song, a Shabbat Shira. And God willing, I'll see you all next week. Bye.